Welcome to the Manna at the Tap, a podcast of Tapestry Ministries. It is Thursday, January the 16th, 2025. The podcast offers a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. We at the Tapestry community call this reading the manna we explore together. It is the spiritual nourishment our souls desire and the sustenance required to foster our spiritual growth. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler with you on a spiritual journey, and together we can share insights and interpretations from the daily biblical lectionary reading, which will enrich our spiritual lives. The lectionary reading today is from the New Testament book of Acts. It is a book about the actions of 12 ordinary men transformed into apostles who carried the message of the movement of a man crucified by the Roman authorities who was raised from the dead. That man's name is Jesus Christ, the Messiah. The book of Acts, written by the same author as the Gospel of Luke, is a newspaper like account of the whirlwind events in the life of the early post resurrection church community. As we open to Acts chapter 8, verse 1, we read, Saul agreed with putting him to death. A glance back to Acts chapter 7, there is a man named Stephen, one of the deacons in the movement who has been stoned to death. On that very day, a rapid sweep of events took place. Severe persecution broke out against the movement, and the community had no choice but to scatter to nearby areas in Judea and Samaria. Only the apostles remained in Jerusalem. Saul, the person who agreed to put the deacon Stephen to death, went from house to house, dragging both women and men to prison. And as the community was scattered from the persecution, the movement was growing instead of diminishing as the message of the Messiah was preached and proclaimed, especially by Philip, one of the other deacons from Jerusalem. There was a man in Samaria named Simon. He was a popular magic worker, and the local people had long been amazed at his sorceries. Simon also believed in the good news that Philip had proclaimed, and he was baptized along with the other men and women. The lectionary today, though, focuses on Acts chapter 8, verses 18 to 24. After Simon was baptized, he stayed close to Philip, observing the miraculous signs and the powerful things he did, and he was amazed. In the meantime, the apostles who had remained in Jerusalem began to hear the reports of what was happening in Samaria. They sent the senior apostles of Peter and John to Samaria. Deacon Philip had baptized the new converts to the movement, but the Spirit had not yet empowered them. Peter and John laid their hands on the converts and they received the Spirit. After Peter and John touched the converts, Simon was amazed at what he saw. He offered to purchase the Spirit to perform the miracles that had been performed by Peter and John. Immediately, Peter told Simon that the power of the Spirit was not for purchase and could not be bought with money. In fact, he told Simon, "Your heart is not right before God," and he warned him to change. He should turn away from his evil thoughts and pray to the Lord. Peter was able to expose the hidden sins locked in Simon's heart. It was full of bitter jealousy, and he was not capable of helping himself. Simon then asked both Peter and John to pray for him. What is sin? It is not merely something negative or the absence of good qualities. It is active, bitter, and vicious, and can exhibit itself in terrible ways at the wrong time. Peter told Simon he could not free himself from sin. And what Simon needed, and we all needed, is to turn from sin to God. The New Testament book of 1 John chapter 1 verse 9 shows how to do this. First, we need to recognize our sinfulness. Then we need to admit and confess our sinfulness to God. He will forgive you when you acknowledge and confess your sin to God. You can trust God to do this. He always does what is right. He will make you clean of all the wrong things that you have done.